Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I am Pam Baker, your host. And as usual, I have an amazing guest. I have a lot of amazing friends. That's just the bottom line. I'm very, very lucky. And today I have my friend Kate O'Donnell joining us from the Cape. She's in Cape Cod right now. And she is going to share the story of her dad, who so many of us just adore, still adore. We'll say it in the present tense because we still adore him. And we're going to learn more about her story and our connection and more just about Kate because she's freaking amazing. So, welcome, Kate. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Pam. I'm so excited to be here. And to tell this story. I feel like so much of what you and I do is storytelling, and so much of what my dad was about was storytelling as well. So
Absolutely.
it's a good
Absolutely.
fit.
Yeah, it's a great fit. And your dad was the master of the storytelling. And many of you know already that I have two kids with cystic fibrosis and very involved in that world. And that's how Kate and I met. She
Hmm.
actually, her dad, Joe, super, super like the hero of the CF world, legitimately. Um, has raised a gazillion dollars for research and been a gigantic advocate
Crazy.
for everything CF. And it was all because of his son, your brother, Joey. So I don't know. Let's start there. Like, tell us about you. And I told where you are currently, but give us a little
Yep.
background on you, and then we'll just get into the story from the beginning.
Okay, great. I'm Kate, as you said. I'm from Boston. I'm in the Cape. I live down here for like 6 months of the year, in Cape Cod. But I live in Beacon Hill during the rest of the year in downtown Boston. Um, but as you mentioned, I had a brother who had cystic fibrosis, and should I do more me background or
Whatever
jump into
you want to
him?
do. Yeah.
Okay.
You because I think we'll get into Joey because that's such a big part. I
Yeah.
mean, why you guys do everything that your family does, but we want to know about you too. So yeah, yeah.
So I live in Boston. I love to travel. I have an English bulldog named Beans who is sitting here with me. So see if he makes an appearance later. I just got married a year ago to Ryan, who's now started joining me on all these CF things. And I don't know, intros to yourself are always so weird, aren't they?
They're so. And we'll definitely weave your story in another. But
Yeah.
yeah, you basically were born into the CF world.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
born into it.
I attended my very first event when I want to say like 3 months old.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
training you now, starting now. Mhm.
Starting now. Yeah, exactly. Um, it was it was such a like a beautiful community to grow up in. And it made it, I so Joey died when my mom was 6 months pregnant with me.
Mm.
And which is insane to me. I mean, my mom is the strongest woman in the entire world, and the fact that she not only had to go through losing Joey at that time, but then do it while she was pregnant, and then 3 months later, she had to deal with me, which is just like she couldn't just be like, "All right, I'm gonna check out and
Yeah.
go live on an island in seclusion." She had to deal with an infant. But at the same time, my mom does tell me, that was a blessing, that she wasn't able to kind of like just sink into her grief and disappear. She had something that had to happen, and she had to take care of me. Um, I was apparently very well behaved and slept and everything, which I
You
can't
knew.
take any credit for. I think that I knew, there's probably something to be said about a baby. You can pick up on the vibes. And
I actually think that babies pick up on the vibes in utero too. I really
yeah,
do. Like I
yeah.
feel like that with my own kids, with different things that were happening while I was pregnant, especially for Jake, learning about my whole CF future.
Mhm.
Feel like there's definitely things I see in him that I wonder that
Yeah.
if we hadn't if we hadn't been diagnosed we were, I just really believe in that because, of course, the mom's taking in all these emotions, processing all the things. How does it not?
Exactly. How
Yeah.
does it not? I don't who knows what it is, but I think I picked up on it somehow, so
Mm, yeah. You're like,
But,
life easy right now for mom. I'm going to take it easy on her. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So they started bringing me to stuff immediately. My parents jumped right back into fundraising and, at the very least, trying to rally Joey's friends and community together because he was 12 when he died. And, there are all these 12 and 13-year-olds who just lost their best friend and they don't understand death. And it was really scary for them. And my parents found a way to rally them. So, one of the first things they did was the kids wanted to build a playground to remember Joey by. And so the whole town came out and built Joey's Park, which still exists in Belmont today
Mhm.
and is a destination playground. And we just rebuilt it about 15 years ago with material that will not rot or get infested by rats, which did happen. So, but Casey, my sister and I, we were both there. She was an infant. I was washing tires. And then, we got to meet all of Joey's friends and they brought their kids back to
Oh,
build this. And so it's become, you know, this big community around people who knew Joey and who loved Joey. And it's not entirely just about, there's the cystic fibrosis side of it, but there's also this group that has wanted to keep his memory alive and they have a physical place that they can go and it's this playground and the generations grow up in it. It's really, really beautiful.
it is really beautiful. I never thought about that, but it's gotta be so cool to have been his friend and then bring your children
Yeah.
to, like, meet their friend, their childhood friend, essentially, That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
That's
Yes. And it's I think I'm kind of an anomaly in that I was brought up with this idea of death from a very, very young age. And um I know there's definitely lots of people who have this, but I remember just being like, okay, my Joey is no longer with us. He died. I don't remember like processing that until I was a little bit older, but my parents never kept it a secret. It was very much like pictures of him all over the place. We talked about him. It would be like, this is the day Joey died. This is his birthday. Both were celebrated. Both were observed. Um,
I think there's just
and
big credit to be given to them too because it's so much easier to I'm not lost a child, but I'm sure it's so much easier to just be like, put that on a shelf and, out of sight, out of mind as much as it can be. It's not ever gone, but I
right,
love that, but just
I do
continuing to
too.
have him be like an active part of the family, essentially.
Exactly. And I think it was probably cathartic for the entire family. My cousins were his age and they lost their best friend as well. It was I in being able to talk about him and remember him. And, we were little, so we would ask questions all the time and it made me very, very comfortable with the idea of death at a young age. I do remember though, um, it clicking in first grade. And I was at school and I went to the school that Joey's Park was at. And so I was on Joey's Park every day and, this is my brother. And I think I was kind of like annoying about it.
Yeah.
Being like, I built this park. But I do remember the idea of death clicking and how scary that was. And like completely melting it out in school and hysterically crying and being like, he's in this is morbid, but, like, he's in a box underground and he can't get out. The idea that you like, lights out, you're dead was not fully clicking, but I was just like, "Oh my god, he must be so lonely and scared," and
Well, in a
that
first grade mind, that's so interesting, yeah, because it then, like, just a normal everyday concept, and then, like, oof, like, there is what that really means.
exactly, exactly. And when I turned 12, I no longer I grew up with my big brother, And
Mhm.
then when I turned 12, we were the same age, and then all of a sudden he was my little brother. And so it was this very, like, weird,
I didn't think about
constantly evolving
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
weird. Just a lot of, like, bizarre, unique, things that, like, I've I've always tried to understand and, talking about, what's it called? Like, birth order, you
Oh,
know? I'm the oldest
mhm.
sibling,
Yeah.
but I don't act like an oldest sibling. If you were
Yeah.
to be everyone thinks that my sister's older because she's the baby.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm the middle sibling.
Yeah.
And how much is birth order, when you're born, or is it how your parents treat you? Because they had already had a sick kid, so they didn't need to hover over me, you know?
That's so fascinating. Never thought
Yeah.
about all of those weird things that are like, again, all the things that are like weird little simple everyday things that you don't like if you've never had anything happen to you in your life. You don't you don't consider them, you know? It's all those little you just take for granted
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, because so many people too with birth order, that's such a good example because, I say that stuff. I talk about birth order to random people in conversations at least once a week.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I
"Oh,
love it. It's
tell you're
fascinating
a
to me.
firstborn. I can tell you're a the middle. I can tell you're a middle child." Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So when did you I mean, I guess you probably got into the whole well, when was the Joey Fund, was that established like immediately? Like,
Yes. I think they were fundraising before he died, but I think they established the actual foundation, like, right after.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then that's when it started being called the Joey Fund at that point. Um, that's when they started making the hats. That's when we started the film premiere. All of the, like, things that make it what it is
Yeah,
today. It kind of formalized at that point.
that's cool. So probably like my kids who were literally in the fundraising business from
Yeah,
from as soon as you could like I mean, I remember my kids carrying around raffle tickets and doing
yep,
like coming out
yep,
like, "Oh, here's $30,000. We just sold all these raffle tickets," and they're 10 years
yeah,
old. It's full of cash. Yeah, so I'm sure that was the same with you. You're
yeah.
just
It was, at some point my parents were like, you can't ask for not that we were asking our friends for presents on her birthday, but we then had to put on our birthday invitations. I think we were like 10, 11 years old. You have to put in lieu of gifts, please bring a donation to the Joey Fund, which we were pissed at because like I don't want to do that. And but it became this like really cool thing where every year we would try to, beat our previous year. I wish I had actually kept track of how much money we brought in every year, but, it wasn't in our mind, we weren't like, "Oh, we're fundraising for this
yeah.
specifically." Um, but it was very much drilled into us from a very early age. I remember my dad giving us, journal assignments, and he would, in the morning be like, "All right, your assignment to write about today is what would happen if I were given $1,000,000." And Casey and I both were like I was like, "I'd get 10 Jeep Wranglers, and they'd each be this color, and then I'd get a house with this, and I'd buy 12 dogs," and all it said at the bottom was, "Why didn't you write at all about charity?"
Wow.
And then I had to rewrite the entry, and it's it was very much, like, drilled into us that, like, you have a responsibility right
Mhm,
now. And you need to think about it in this manner, and you can still have fun, you can still get your Jeeps, go get the 5 Jeeps though,
mhm.
maybe. You don't
Yeah.
need 10.
Me too. Yeah.
And how do you help everybody else out? Because isn't that, like, the whole purpose of life?
My god. I can totally, totally see that happening.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
savage.
Savage. That's wicked. I love it.
So
Oh my
insane.
god. So, do you remember, a time when you were given, like, serious, like, leadership? rules, because obviously you not obviously to the people listening, but the you've become a major leader in the entire National CF Foundation. I mean, and all the things you do with milestones and being on the national board and all the things that you've done. When did you see that, and maybe your dad was like, "Now you're going to go this path."
Yeah.
When did you see the leadership side of it all coming out?
I think I've always been very drawn to just this entire world. I like I like people. I'm a huge extrovert. I like working with people. I like seeing the difference that you can make. My sister is a bit more like behind the scenes, and
Okay.
that's what she likes. And that's what we've always been like our whole lives. I'm very much like my dad in that manner. And I think I'd say like probably 20 years ago, I realized that we needed a website.
Mm,
And we had one, but it was more of a landing page. One of Joey's friends had started it in like the very beginning of the internet. And it was way more than a lot of nonprofits had at that point, but it wasn't very functional. It just had like how to contact us. And so I decided to take over the website. He sold it to me. I built out our Facebook group. This is pre-Instagram and everything. And um, I this was coinciding with when we were rebuilding the park.
okay.
And I found it to be a very effective way in getting the word out of
Mm,
what we were doing and connecting with the community. And I was like, oh, it was a big light bulb moment of, oh, I can run this and get people to really lean in by, posting photos and creating this community online. And then from there, I'd say that was the first taste of it. And then I owned everything that was online from that point forward. Because my dad, he only got a phone like 10 years ago and didn't really know how to do anything. Very analog. And so we did that. And then I just started going with him to events. I was always his date to any of the cystic fibrosis events that were not family based. And I started traveling with him to VLC was when the leadership within CFF really popped up. Um, the first one I went to, and I think probably where I met you,
yeah.
was in San Diego.
It's the one I chaired.
Yes.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
and I was like, "Oh my god, she's famous. It's so cool." And it was you and Ray, right?
No, me and Justin,
You and
but
Justin,
Ray
yes.
was the next year. Yeah.
So that was my very first VLC, and up until then, it had been very much like everything cystic fibrosis that we did was Mass Rhode Island based, but getting to that and seeing it on a national level, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is so much bigger than I ever imagined." And watching my dad like blossom with all these people and how much people loved him and how much he loved them, I was like, "I need to be part of this. I
Yeah.
have to."
Yeah. He's
And
icon.
that's kind of what kicked it off,
That's so interesting.
you
Makes
know?
sense though. We tell people all the time, you gotta get to BLC. You gotta see it.
Yeah. Now
Change.
it's my number one thing when I talk to new parents. They're like, "I don't know where to start." And I'm like, "I know where you start. You go to VLC.
Yes.
It's gonna be
Start.
great." And they
Mm,
do.
yep. Yeah. Okay, so well that leads us down to let's talk about your dad, because iconic. I mean, he's like I said. So he started uh Joey was diagnosed very, very early, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was about 6
Uh,
months old.
yeah. And so take us through that. So he's diagnosed with CF, and then your
Mhm.
what did that look like, and how did he come into, like, he evolved into this like literally iconic persona that is like literal superhero status in the CF world and beyond. So talk about that. Like let us take a little peek into who was Joe O'Donnell.
Yeah, it's so when Joey was diagnosed, it was a lot of my mom, banging on doors, being like, "My kid is sick. This is not normal." And it was, and Vigil writes about this in Breath from Salt, but they were like, "Oh, honey, this is your first kid. You're fine. Don't worry about it." And he was very, very sick. And she was just like, "I hate you guys." Um,
You know that
but
same thing happened to me for 2 years.
yes. It's
exactly the same. They I was like
infuriating.
back, like I was gonna be blacklisted from the medical community. I was like, "Something's wrong with my kid." And they
Mhm.
thought it was all in my head.
It
Mhm.
happens with, like, everyone, and it's so infuriating, and you would think at this point
Yeah.
that they'd be like, "Oh, maybe we should trust the mom." I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she's right. So that happens. Joey gets diagnosed. He's very, very sick. And my dad worked in academia. He didn't come from money. He was always very entrepreneurial and successful and really good at what he did. But he was working at Harvard Business School as a dean of students, and he loved working in higher ed. And the only reason that he left was because he needed to make way more money to take care of a sick kid.
For the costs. Yeah. Wow.
And so he ended up buying um, this food service company. And that's where all of his like business acumen really, you know, went up. But he realized very quickly that he's always been very good and entrepreneurial at and meeting people and bringing them in and telling his story. He's the most someone once described him as being able to charm the birds out of the trees, but he really was a charmer. And so that's what he did. He just started traveling around and telling people about what was going on. And he realized very early on the power of storytelling and fundraising. And because it was his story and he could show them Joey and Joey could come and, they took part um, in advertisements and Joey showed up on, news programs, and I have them all on the computer. I'm going to be posting them on the Instagram soon. And they really, really worked hard on awareness and getting that out and showing this like really cool little kid who loved baseball and he was just like funny and an artist and had a bunch of friends and people could see him and be like, "Well, he looks like my friend. He's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
you know,
It's just a
it's
regular.
it's just a regular kid
Yeah.
who wants to live."
Who wants to live? Mhm. Yeah.
And that's really how the lore of Joe O'Donnell started.
Wow. Wow. And so when so where was the focus, like his local focus, and when he started merging nationally? And maybe that was from the beginning. I don't know. How did that start?
I think originally it started with, we did Joey O'Donnell Day, which was more for the community and the kids to get together. That was for a few years. And then they moved into the film premiere, which will be celebrating our 42nd year um, in November. But he started there. And I believe he just like he started reaching out to people at National. And he ended up getting brought into National because of his business acumen
Yeah.
and how good he was
Mm.
at fundraising. And he was part of the group that made the decision that we had to no longer fundraise specifically per chapter and community
Oh,
and bring all of the money together and use it as venture philanthropy rather than which if that hadn't worked, I mean, like it could
you're
have imploded the entire community.
yeah.
But
It did. It did
it,
work. Brilliant.
yeah,
It
thank
became a
God.
massive game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, when this group of people got together, including Joe, and they all said, he met Doris Tulson and he started meeting all these like huge names in the CF world. And he charmed them, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And they realized we got to get this guy on the team to start traveling around the country and telling his story. And I think it really, really ramped up too after Joey died. Um, After Joey was gone, it was no longer about just keeping Joey alive. It was much more, I've seen what this can do and what can happen to all these people. And it really lit a fire under his ass. And he just,
Well, and that's a huge testament too, because I think that's a rare situation that you lose your child and then
yes,
you're gonna work your ass off to make a bigger difference and like I'm
Good.
out. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah,
Just wrecked me, I'm done. That's
totally.
uh,
And I don't blame anyone who does that either. I don't know that I would be able to suffer a
no,
loss
I
like
don't need
that and jump deeply and, there's some crazy statistic where like 90% of couples who lose a child divorce and um it made my parents stronger. It made them I don't know, it just grew a deep respect for both of them. And I think just like they learned how that they each have their own lanes and what they deal with and it made their relationship just even better, which was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Again, testament to both of them and their
Yeah.
character and who they are.
Yeah.
They're yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. Wow. Okay, so then he partners up officially.
Yep.
He's becoming like the face, the name
The face. Yep.
of the foundation, and yeah, I mean, I was trying to remember when I first met him, but I just remember being, like, blown away because he was
Yeah.
such an inspiration, and he could literally, like, make you empty your pockets
Yes.
easily and be like, "Here, take all my money. Go do
I
whatever you."
know.
Yeah.
He knew what he was talking about. And if he didn't, I think one of the best things about my dad was that if he didn't know, he would say, I have no idea, but I'm going to go find the expert who knows how to do that. And I'm not, he was a very like beg for forgiveness later kind of
Mhm.
guy. Not in a manipulative way, but like he'd just be like, well, I got to go find this guy because we got to
Yeah,
get this done.
yeah.
And he
It
got
was
shit done.
yeah.
He was the biggest hustler I have ever met in my life. And but in a way that raised other people up. He would look at you and know immediately, like, oh, Pam is really, really good at this. These are her strengths. I'm going to put her in here. And especially like at that time, this was in like the 80s. And he was identifying women who were really good at what they did. And I've always found it really interesting that the CF community is, this is not shocking, but it's a lot of women in leadership positions. And a lot of them were moms who were
Mhm.
really just pissed off at what was happening. And
Yep.
that was it.
Gotta do
I'm going to get it done myself at that
Mhm.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Joe loved strong women. And he loved being surrounded by these really, really smart, passionate women who, my grandma was a very strong, passionate Italian woman. And he always liked that. Let's get it done. The best people to get it done are these amazing moms.
Yeah. Yeah. He knew. He did know.
Hmm.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, well, when ugh, I don't even wanna I hate transitioning to this part, but,
No.
you
Don't worry, I
know
brought my
I
tissues.
know, God. I mean, I'm trying to remember when I knew something was not quite right, but, what ho walk us through that when
Yeah.
you, started not feeling right and diagnosed and all of that.
Yeah. Look, Joe was the most charismatic human in the entire world, and if anything was ever wrong with someone, he would make a call to any hospital. He would get them in the door. He would get them to see the specialist. He didn't have that own focus on his own self because he was just so selfless. And I think facing your own mortality is really, really scary, you know?
Mhm.
So he had diabetes. He loved food. He ate. I mean, the man could eat, and he loved it. Was his passion. And he basically what happened is he had his diabetes and didn't really take very good care of it. And then, but that was it was semi managed for like 10, 15 years. And then I'd say probably God, what year are we now? Okay, so he died 2 years ago now, and that was 24. I'd say like 2 years or a year before COVID, he started like really not feeling great. COVID COVID crushed him, as a man who his entire life was people and going out to dinner, and he was in the restaurant industry. So like business meetings were lunches and dinners and his employees, and he loved everyone he worked with. And like that was his joy, was being with all these people. And then, we were here. I'm in his office right now, actually. I
Yay.
have, like, all these photos of him right here and articles but we got down here and it was beautiful, but he was alone. I remember he got, like, a cut on his toe, and I was like, "Oh my god, dad, that's, like, a huge open wound." And he was like, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine." And I was like, "Can you not feel it? Does it not hurt?" And I think that's when we realized that, like, the diabetes was
Yeah.
worse than he was telling us, and that he probably did have a little bit of neuropathy at that point. So we did fix that and whatever, and then once we got out of COVID, we got to this first VLC. It was the one in Denver, I wanna say?
And in Denver, was it the one that was, like, in summertime because it was right after
Yeah,
COVID?
yeah,
Yeah, maybe that was Denver. You
and
just
people started making comments to me about him,
Mhm,
and I think I could tell that he looked older, but it was very, very obvious to everyone else at that point.
mhm. Yeah, I do remember.
And yeah, it was very shocking for everybody because he had always been, like, commanding, and he was still commanding, but he had lost a lot of weight, which he had been trying to do, so it wasn't that concerning at first. He was a bit, like, tippy, which we were all like, we thought it was a neurological
A
thing.
bit of a frailness about him for sure.
Yes, he looked old,
Yeah.
which for the very first time, I mean, he wasn't young, he was 78 at that point, 77, but he actually looked old. Anyway, very, very long story short, he felt like absolute crap, and he started kind of fainting a little bit, and we didn't really know what was going on. And, his blood work was clear, and, he had a summer that was really, really bad down here where he couldn't play golf anymore, he was napping all the time. Um, I got engaged at the end of the summer, and then a month later, my mom called me and she said, "Dad had a stroke." And I just called the hospital, and, um, it felt like a very final call. Up until that week, he had been we were calling him, and he didn't really wanna talk, because he felt so sick, and, um, anyway, we went to the hospital, and he was there for probably a week, and, at that point, they did a full body scan, and they found that he had pancreatic cancer, and it was stage 4, mets to the liver, um, which was I mean, everybody knows what pancreatic cancer does, and
Mhm.
especially stage 4, there's
Stage 4.
nothing you can do.
Crazy that it wasn't showing up in any blood work.
I
Huh.
know. How? And, I'm convinced that, like, they weren't testing the right it's not like he was going in for a full body panel
Yeah.
because he knew something. He knew something was very, very wrong. And I think he was terrified. Prenuvo had just come out, and I was like, "Dad, let's go to New York and we'll both get Prenuvo." And he was like, "No, I'm not going." But that was me trying to get him in the machine. I don't think it would have changed the trajectory of anything. We would have had to, but I don't know how long he had the cancer. But this man was like hosting dinner parties with stage 4 cancer
Yeah.
and going golfing. And, we think about that. He probably had it for like a year.
Yeah, if you think back to when you first started seeing things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And maybe longer. I don't know. I mean, sometimes pancreatic cancer moves very, very quickly. So, but there's no way to know. There are the symptoms for pancreatic are like back pain, which like I have back pain.
Like, yeah, who
Like,
doesn't have at
like
any given moment?
exactly. It's back pain, it's weight loss, which
But he's trying to lose weight, so
he was actively trying, and he was on like metformin for diabetes, which
uh,
is basically a GLP-1. So
yeah,
like he was losing weight. So yeah, that was the diagnosis, and 3 months later he was gone. Yeah.
yeah, that To us on the outside, it felt very, very fast because none of us really knew
Yeah,
anything. I mean, I didn't know, but this it was also hearing your end of it, your perspective, it also was very fast
it was very,
from, like,
very
diagnosis.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
He I started, like, I would email people, like, once a week, and, I'd always sign off and say, like, "Please, you can forward this to whoever you want, but, I can't, like" whatever. And, we tried to be fairly positive at the beginning. We brought him to, um here was the other thing, is the stroke impacted his ability to speak and to write and to read, and the loves of his life were sitting on his phone and talking to his friends for hours at a time, and he couldn't do it. And he would have some easier days where he'd be like, "Okay, I'm ready for phone calls." And that happened probably in the first month. He'd be like, "Okay, Kate, I wanna call people." And I'd be like, "Alright." And we'd go down the list, and he'd do 5-minute calls with everybody just saying hi and checking in, and but after that, it started, the brain is crazy. And I took a lot of psychology classes in college, but seeing, the clock test, seeing him actually writing the clock down and seeing what his version of a clock was, I was just like, "Oh my god." But I think that was one of the hardest parts, was watching. He wasn't just sick, he was sick and couldn't communicate in
It's really hard.
a really meaningful way um, that we all know he loved to do.
Yeah. He was
And that
good.
was really
Yeah.
awful.
Do you think you hear these people with dementia and stuff like that where
Mhm.
y do you think he had a frustration, like an awareness,
Oh,
like
yeah.
he knew, so which makes it even
Yeah.
so
Even worse, yeah. He would get very, very frustrated, um, but then try to, convince us that everything was fine, and, try to do, business as usual. And but yeah, he knew what was going on,
uh,
especially when it first happened. It was, I'd say he was pretty aware for, like, 2 months. The final month, it and the chemo, I mean, chemo is such shit, and it's awful, and he didn't wanna do chemo, but uh, we were like, "Please, please try the chemo," like, because you hear, "Chemo's the only thing you can do," and blah, 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 and he couldn't do a Whipple, it was too far gone at that point, but at least we were like, maybe we can do some aggressive chemo and we'll get a
yeah,
year out of this,
something.
and he
Yeah,
can recover from the stroke, and we can actually make, like, life plans.
right, right.
'Cause he kept, in the first month or so, he'd be like, "Alright, I wanna make these plans, like, I wanna do this with my business, I'm not done with CF. We have to set you up with CF, we have to do this, and we have to do this," but it became too difficult to plan all that because of his mind, and, um, that was the worst part, though, was this, like, beautiful mind of his was just, and he couldn't control it, and it was so, frustrating for him to deal with that. Um, and he didn't want people to see him like that
Not
either.
not I'm
So,
sure.
um, eventually, we did, like, 3 rounds of chemo, and it knocked him out, and we were just like, we can't do this to him. This is torture." It was worse than the cancer, and he wasn't in any pain at any point. Um, so we just figured the chemo caused pain, but the cancer wasn't. So we went to hospice at that point, and, kept him really comfy, and he was able to kind of, we watched a lot of movies and talked a lot, but
Was he able to stay home for the most part?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
He was in the hospital right after the stroke, and then we brought him in for, like, a few appointments, but, we found some unbelievable caretakers, especially this man named Julio, who ended up working for my friend's dad as well when he was sick, and Julio basically, like, lived with us, and there were a bunch of other guys who helped out, and, but it allowed him to continue to have some dignity throughout the rest of it, and he had Julio and, just that, like, he didn't want us having to, like, bring him to the shower or whatever. It was, helpful, and we still, we keep in touch with Julio, and he's, like, the best ever. But he, he stayed at home. We retrofitted the house,
So good.
and, um, and so he was comfy in the house and in his room and everything.
Good. That's so
Yeah.
important. That's so important.
Yeah.
And he was home, and I had hospice care come in for a little bit, but I just didn't have a good experience with that, so we hired caregivers as well. And interesting, same thing. One of our caregivers was just so amazing, and now she's taking care of my mother-in-law. Like, she's
Like
yeah, so she knows, my mother-in-law hasn't really ever, uh recovered from losing John, from losing her son, and so she's kind of gone downhill, and, yeah, she's just being
so hard.
taken care of now by someone who knew her son, so
It's like it's so beautiful.
it is
Like
beautiful. Yeah,
these
really is.
caretakers, they the way that they're able to deal with death with such a I don't like it feels weird to say with like joy, but
It is, and it's like angel energy, you know?
yeah, the
It's
hospice workers and
know how they do it.
I don't either. And he was able to take all of us who were terrified and devastated and constantly just like we stopped eating. I lost like 15 pounds in a month. Like, so did my sister and my mom, obviously, too. She's a peanut and she was just a little bird at the end of this. Like, they were the ones like feeding us and they were the ones being like, this is what we're doing. This is, you can trust us. And, we were trying to go through um, last rites. We didn't know. My dad grew up Catholic, but wasn't really practicing at all. But he was hanging on for a very long time at the end of it. And we were like, this is, I love talking to people who have gone through loss because like you get this, but
Yeah,
like the dark humor that
yeah,
surrounds grief and death. And like, we were just like, we don't know what to do anymore because he's hanging on. And poor Julio is like, I've never seen someone hang on this long. Like, we don't know what to do. And we were like, he must need us to say something. We must have to, we're talking to all these consultants and like people who've gone through this and hospice workers. And, we're going in and being like, we have to apologize to him for all of our wrongs. So I'm like confessing the weirdest shit ever to my dad. And I'm like, and I forgive you for when you yelled at me when I like broke this thing and like I came home drunk and you were so upset and like I forgive you and I was wrong and like nothing worked and finally we were like we have to do last rites and we were like he's not religious and we were like it doesn't matter we have to do last
could be
rites
the thing.
and Julio's like it's fine we all we have to do is bless this water and like I can perform it. And again, it didn't work. So we had to call in a Catholic priest and my friend had told me about this
You're
like
like,
really
"I'm not
hot
buying it,
priest.
Julio." Yeah,
Exactly. It didn't work. So anyway,
crazy.
we ended up finally getting a priest. Yeah, he wanted to hang on.
Yeah, wow.
So
Yeah,
but I mean, these people are just godsends. I
they are.
cannot speak highly enough
Angels.
for them. Yeah.
Truly, truly, it's insane. I wanna have mine on the show sometime because I just love the perspective and just having been helping so many people transition, out of physical life, physical being is like I just think there's lots of lessons to be learned, and
I do
we
too.
haven't coordinated our schedules yet, but someday she's gonna be on here.
Yeah.
She's literally an angel. We see her at Christmas, we see her at holidays because 'cause she'll bring my
Oh,
mother-in-law over. My kids, like, especially my daughter, just, like, folds into her when she sees
yes.
just like, "Ah," like, angel energy. That's what it
Yeah, I
is.
mean, that type of work, I can't imagine doing it myself, but
No, me neither.
wow.
Thank God some
Wow.
people do it. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Alright. So, you then was it an automatic, like, understanding that, "Okay, I'm stepping up. I'm stepping into"
Yeah. So right after he died, so as you know, we were in the middle of the Milestones 3 campaign, and he ran Milestones 1 and
Mm.
he ran Milestones
Yeah,
2, and then he was running Milestones 3, which we really gotta get a better name for these campaigns,
I
but
know. For those who don't, gift world milestones is a big, like, major gifts, basically. Major,
yes.
yeah.
And he had run it, and all of them that he ran, he exceeded what they had asked him to do. And so, of course, he joined in. And by the time he had started on Milestones 3, he very much was talking to the foundation about like um, legacy and um, and succession planning as well, because he was like, you really do need to bring in, I can't be it every
Forever
single
and ever.
time.
Yeah.
And not saying, he was like, Kate's going to be in this always, but like, you can't just have one Joe O'Donnell. You need to train up these younger people who are
Yes.
so passionate about it. And, this is when he would like talk about you and Margaret and like, and Mark and Angie and Peter and just be like, these are the people who are passionate about this. And like, we can take like 10 of these people and they can go everywhere too. But he was like, I'm getting old. I'm tired. Like, I can't run every single thing anymore. And I would sit right here with him on these milestones meetings. So while I wasn't running it, I was kind of like, not his handler, but like kind of his assistant in these things at that point. Cause I think he knew that like I was going to be stepping into
Mhm.
his role.
Yeah.
And, um, and then he died in the middle of milestones 3.
Yeah.
And that was in January. He died January 7th. And, we had VLC in March. And, I wanna say probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. No, it must've been only 2 or 3 weeks after he died. The CFF called me up. I forget who it was. It was probably Angela. And she was like, "We wanna talk to you about, like, VLC. I think we're gonna, um, do a video about your dad and to remember him, and we don't you're probably not coming to VLC this year," and all this stuff, and I was like, "I will be at VLC. And if you need someone to speak about him, I will talk." Because I could not imagine someone else talking about him. And I'm curious how you feel about this too. I get like weirdly annoyed when other people try to like memorialize my dad.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
do you find it the same
Oh,
way?
yeah,
Like,
totally. Mhm. Yep. Mhm. Yep.
like
Like,
I'm
don't
just like, you
pretend.
don't right, like you don't know him. Like there's a handful of people I'm totally fine with people doing this, but like I was like, who are you gonna fly in to have talk about him? Everybody at the CF Foundation loved him, and a lot of people did really, really know him. But I was just like, this is too important a job. I'm the only person who can do this. My mom's not gonna do it. She doesn't like to be the CF events. Really, just like she can't do them. They're too emotional for her. And my sister didn't want to do it, and I was like, okay. So
Wait.
it was me. And then I could tell they were kind of like, and we're probably going to start like looking for people for milestones. And I was just like, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but like, I'm happy to take his place. Um, I was like, I don't know that I can fundraise to the extent that he can, but I, if we have a team or something, I'd be happy to do it. And that's when they suggested that we bring Amy back
Yeah.
in. And which was so fun because she was the person who asked my dad to chair the very first milestones. So it became a full circle thing. And yeah, that's basically how it happened. And 2 months later I was standing in front of everyone at BLC talking about my dad, giving a second eulogy. And I don't know, I think it's been kind of a very natural move. Um it's one that I have really, really enjoyed. And being at all these CF events with him and VLC and NACFC, I I'm like, it feels like a really beautiful way to remember him and to honor him and to be around these people who loved him so much, and it's a side of him that, people always say to me, like, "Thank you for sharing him with me," but I always thought it was the opposite, like, me getting to be with him at these CF events, like, "Thank you guys for letting me see this side of him that I wouldn't get to see otherwise." Um, but, like, this is his legacy, he wanted to cure cystic fibrosis, and he wanted to get it done, and if I can continue to push that through as someone who knew his, like, heart's desire and mission at
Deepest.
that, at home even,
Mhm.
then I would love to do that, and it's been so, so cathartic, and, um, I probably talk about him a lot more than I would, and that has been helpful.
It is helpful. I feel exactly the same way at our Smokies event that was just a couple
Mhm.
ago. I feel like that's the only place in my life where everybody still talks about him. Everybody still honors him. Everyone really happy. It's like they're waiting to share memories and tell the stories. And I think in regular everyday life, people don't do it anymore. They don't
No.
is it I don't know why. I think it's because people are afraid of making you cry, or
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, I don't wanna talk about it. It's awkward," and they don't wanna cry. But I feel like it's the same for you.
Mhm.
I really love going to Smokies. I look forward to it every year. It's an awesome event, but it's also the place where, pictures are up of John. Things are done to honor
Yes.
him every year. Like like his presence is so felt in that space that
Mhm.
it's just freaking awesome. It's aw
It's I think you're right. I think people are really scared of death. They don't wanna make you cry. They don't, you know but I find that, if I'm with you or I'm with this group, like, it's okay if I start crying. No one's like, "Are you okay?" Like, "I'm crying right now." Like, it's shitty, we lost these people who were so, so special, not just to us, but to entire communities, and it's it's beautiful that we get to have these emotions about them, and we're able to remember them in this way is so powerful, and I think, a lot of people don't get to do that. It really keeps their memory alive, and I think about how my parents kept Joey's memory alive was through the Joey Fund, and I think it's really cathartic for these people, and it helps them explain death to their kids by going to the park, you know? Death is death is always gonna be part of life, and I watched my sister do the same thing with I don't have kids, so I didn't have to explain anything to any small people. It was just I just had to take care of myself and Ryan and my dog, and, um, who was also obsessed with my dad.
Mhm.
Do you have dogs? You have
Yes,
dogs.
I
Like,
do.
we, like after John passed, did you bring the dogs in? I'm always curious what people do with the dogs because I brought
Yeah.
Chicky into my dad's room and, like, let her and she was very protective of him, and while he was sick, she'd sit on his feet the whole time, and I let her in the room, and if there's ever, like, a box of his sweaters around, she would smell it, and she'd kind of, like, cry a little bit, like, they know.
You know. They do know. We got a dog. It was John and Duncan's, my youngest dog, during COVID. So John got diagnosed in 2018, at the end of 2018, and then he died in November of 21. So Coda is, he was whatever, a year and a half, but he did the same thing because John's space was in our living room. That's where he stayed. And, had one of those big recliner things for him and
Yep,
could help him get up and everything. And, yeah, Coda stayed right there, like with him on watch all the
yep,
time.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's wild.
it
It's
is,
wild.
but so cool. So
Yeah. So, I didn't have to explain to kids, but Casey did.
mhm,
Blair and JD were 6 and 4, and so old enough to know that something was up
mhm,
and, like, fully they're still little, but, um, Blair came over a lot more than JD did because he didn't really pick up anything other than, like, something's off with Go-Go. They called him Go-Go, and it's so cute, and, but Blair knew, and she was pretty affected by it, but we ended up, um right after he died, like, the day of his funeral, there was a giant double rainbow across
Mm.
Boston,
Oh my god.
and people were sending us pictures from all over the city, and we have, like,
My god.
so
And
now yeah, it's so cool, and, like, asking my sister just told me that when she was with him, she asked him to come back as a Blue Jay, and her son JD got on his first T-ball team, like, 6 months later, and it was the Blue Jays, and, I'll pull into the cemetery and a Blue Jay will swoop over me, and, you know, it's I see things like this, but so it's Blue Jays and rainbows really for us with him, and the kids, Casey's, adopted the same thing with that my parents did with Joey, which is we're gonna talk about Go-Go as much as we can and talk about what happened, and they were I think that it scared them a lot in the beginning because death is scary. They picked up on it very quickly, and they the things that come out of their mouth too, I'm just like, they see a rainbow and they're like, "Go-Go's here! Everybody outside, Go-Go's here!" We have to go and see it, and, like, JD, who's, like, the cutest thing, he's, 6 now. A year ago, he was like, "Auntie, Go-Go liked popcorn, right?" I was like, "Yeah, he loved popcorn. It was one of his favorite snacks." And he goes, "Do you think that they have popcorn underground?" I was like, "I don't know. I hope so. I hope they have popcorn wherever." He was like, "It would be so sad if Go-Go couldn't have popcorn wherever he is," you know?
my god.
And just the words that come out of there, it helped us with this humor of just being like, "You know how Go-Go's dead?" You'd
Yeah.
have to be like, "What are you gonna do, yell at them? You can't be mad at these little kids because they're processing it just like
Yeah,
you are."
just matter of factly too, like, yeah, which is kind of freaking awesome because they're not, like,
It is.
stepping on eggshells, like, wondering how to say it. It's just like, that's how
Exactly.
it
And
is a
if we can adopt like, I wish that people would more people would adopt
Mhm.
this way of talking about death, Some even, like, my closest friends, and I'm sure some of your closest friends, like, still just don't and if I bring it up, they'll wanna change the subject because they don't wanna upset me, and I'm like, "I wanna talk about him.
Yeah, totally.
It's
We
okay."
we had this, I think you know this, but a couple weeks ago, my widow group, we went to Iceland. There were some of
Yeah.
us in Iceland, and we had this our tour guide, like, we had a driver who was our tour guide all week, and he had, like, the playlist that was amazing, and it was, like, completely all over the place. Like, it'd go from, like, Frank Sinatra to, like, Bruno Mars to, uh, oh, Patsy Cline, and then Queen. It was all over the place. But inevitably, somehow, he hit, like, all of our songs that meant
Mm.
to us. And at one point, this song came on, which meant nothing to us except the lyrics. Michelle and I were right next to each other we had a Sprinter, and God, I don't even know the name of it. I'm going to sing it, and it's terrible. But um, the song that's like, "I can't live if living is without you,"
Yeah.
and we looked at each other. We're like, "Fuck's sake! Like, are you kidding?" And we're laughing about it. But then the next thing you know, we're like, well, each of us looking out the window, like,
Yeah.
like crying. And I said something to him at one point, and he was like, and he's this like 32nd generation Icelander. And he
Yeah.
was like, emotions are good. Like, you're meant to feel them. I was like, okay. As you have all the widows on the bus crying at
Yeah.
various stages,
Yeah.
but it was good because we're just like, okay, now they're actually here with us in this
You
moment.
gotta let it out.
It's fine. It's fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny how some people are just more
His
cool with it and others,
Yeah.
"Yeah, quick, turn the station, he was just
E
like, "You're good. Try it
exactly.
out."
You're fine, cry it out.
Yep.
And you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh-huh.
I was the first of my friend group to lose her dad, and everyone is going to lose their dad. Everyone. And Um, so, they try to help, and the ones that were most helpful were the ones who were like, "How can I help you?" Like, not right after. Obviously, I know I can't tell you how to help me, but the ones who were open to feedback and just, like, got in there,
Mhm.
and there's I think, like, I look back at when my friends have lost not even parents, but parents, siblings, people they love, spouses, and I never knew how to reach out to them. And that was like the scariest thing for me. It was I didn't know how to help them. I didn't know. And now I know that you just got to bust down that door and show up with the food and show
Yep.
up with the help and
And don't say, "Let me know what I can do to help."
right, like F
That's the
off.
least
Like
of
I don't also enough with the flowers.
flowers, no, done. Mhm.
Enough with the flowers. The most helpful thing that anyone sent to me was one of my friends sent over a, like, grief care package, and she had lost her, fiancé, like, a year before, and she's my age, and she sent over it was, like, a grief journal, this, like, little book that had, like, quotes for every day of the year,
Oh,
so
wow.
you could just, like, read it.
Yeah.
There was, like, a comic book about grief that was, like,
Wow.
hysterical. I gotta send you this book. It was
Yeah.
so funny. And a cozy blanket and some, like, just tangible shit that I, like, was comforting. And someone else delivered a platter of, just plain turkey sandwiches because
Oh,
I couldn't eat anything else. I was
yeah.
nauseous,
Yeah.
and I ate plain turkey sandwiches for, like, weeks.
I also found
And
fruit to be very helpful
yes.
because you're getting all the fattening casserole stuff.
Yes.
Like, and I could just have a piece of fruit.
I don't want cookies. I want to not feel like I'm going to die,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
I literally walked in and I was one of my girlfriends, lost her son, and, this was after John died, and everybody just was at her house always, and I walked in one day with, like, a case of Prosecco and a giant watermelon, and she was like, "That's exactly what I need right now,
Yep.
Prosecco and watermelon, like, that's it."
Yep.
I was like,
Thank you.
"I
Yeah.
I feel you." Yep.
Hmm?
Mhm.
You know what I learned? Someone taught me because, we were all getting a million plants and the lilies. Oh my God, the lilies.
Mhm. The death plant.
Enough with the death plant.
Yeah.
And I already was anti lily because my mom, after Joey, was like, I can't with the lilies and the roses. She was just like, no more roses, no more lilies. so So I called Winston Flowers because they were all coming from Winston's, or maybe they called me. I don't know what it was. Anyway, someone called me and they were like, "Hey, I have about 40 more arrangements coming your way and to your mom and your sister. We wanted to let you know that you do not have to accept these right now." And I was like, "Really? I don't need to?" And they were like, "No. All they have done is pay for these. What they ended up doing, I asked them to put a hold on it. And so this is my PSA to anyone who is going through grief. You can call, or better yet, have someone else call for you, the flower shop of your location. But Winston Flowers does do this unpaid ad.
Yeah.
And they, every time they got one, they would send me a picture of the note and the message sent, so I knew who was sending it and, like, the cost of what they had bought or, like, what arrangement, and then at the end of it, they were like, "Call me in a month," and I called them in a month, and I took all the money that people had paid, and I bought myself, like, 3 big green plants that don't die.
Don't
They're
die.
like big ZZ plants or snake plants, and they're still in my house,
Yeah.
and they're not an orchid that is, like, dying and not dying.
Yeah.
It's
That's amazing.
chef's kiss. Yeah,
Amazing. And
so you
then
can
you
do that.
still have it, like, that's representing my
Right,
dad. That's that.
exactly, it's beautiful.
I love that. I've never heard that before. That's great.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
great.
now I wait. I wait. I write a letter.
Mhm.
and I send a green plant a month later.
I love that. Yep.
So,
Hot tips. We should
yep,
just
and
go.
turkey, prosecco, and watermelons.
Yep. That's it. That's all you
That's
need.
it, baby. That's
That's
it. And just listen. People don't
Mhm.
need to, things happen for a reason. That was the worst.
Don't say that
You know?
unless you wanna be punched in the face.
It's like, what possible reason? Or they're in a better place.
Better place. No, they're not.
No, they're
Being in house.
quite literally not.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. We need to do a whole show on just that. That would be super.
yeah, it
Mhm.
would be.
Yeah.
But, I brought down, I was like, "What can I bring down?" And I brought down, I'm like a total hoarder, and so was my dad. So, you remember his ties
Yes.
he wore? So I have all of his
Oh
I have a few down here. Um, this one's a submarine
my
sandwiches.
god, that's
This
amazing.
one's hippos. He wore this to a lot of CF stuff.
Love it.
But all of his ties were, prints and animals and, um, his fun little sweaters and everything. But I try to incorporate him in as much as I can without being like that girl. But, I got married 6 6 months after he died, 8 months after he died, and people said to me, I remember when he first got diagnosed, a family friend called me up and meaning well, but he was like, he's gonna die. You have to move the wedding up.
Oh my
You
god.
you can't do, he's gonna wanna be there and you can't do the big wedding in September. You have to, even if it's just next to his bedside. And I talked to both my parents about it and my whole family, and they were like, "What?"
Yeah,
And
what?
Joe basically was like, "I will kill you if you get married next to my deathbed." What? Like, no. And so we decided to just keep planning. Um, I put a big hold on it. I had amazing wedding planners and I called them up and I was just like, "This is what's happening. I have no input for the next, like, my vision. Call me in 4 months." And we picked it back up but planning it ended up being this very cathartic thing in envisioning, like, how would he like it? We didn't know that he wouldn't be there for sure. We figured he wouldn't be, but, you know, I I wrapped one of his ties around my bouquet of flowers and, the weather was gorgeous and we kept just being like, "This is
Thank
from
you.
Joe," and we had a almost full moon, and there was a lot of talk about him, and my sister gave the most gorgeous speech that talked about him and how devastating it was that he wasn't there to walk me down the aisle. Because he really was my dad was one of my best friends. Like he was my best friend. He was my person, and very hard having to go through life without him.
Yeah,
You know,
really hard.
so
Well, what is what is one of your most favorite memories?
my God, I have so many. I have so many, like, funny memories too, just, like, funny stories about I had told the story about, like, us basically burning down the beach. Um, that was I could tell that one, but really traveling with him was just such a hoot. He he had such a thirst for knowledge of everything, and he took us all around the world. With groups of girls, our friends, he wanted to create experiences for us to be together and to experience the world and to blow open our parameters of what we understood. But we went to Africa with him in 2011. We went to Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya, and we had the most incredible time. But like watching him, like with gorillas and, like, hiking and, um, just meeting people in Rwanda and talking about the genocide and walking with these little kids in, we were in Bataro with we were with Paul Farmer, actually, like, as he was building up the new hospitals in Rwanda.
Wow.
And Joe's walking through these hospitals, which the community was building, and holding the hands of these little kids are on both sides of him, and, like, talking to the families and just seeing how much he cared so, so much. And it wasn't just cystic fibrosis. It was these unbelievable people who had their own struggles, and he cared about them. And, we met another woman who was trying to go back to college, and but she was at home helping her dad with their business in Tanzania. And he got her contact information and, like, helped her go back to college. And you know it it extended so much. But I have a ton of travel stories, which were just, he charmed everyone everywhere he went. It didn't matter what country you were from. It didn't matter what I think a lot of people would get intimidated by him because he was just this successful businessman. But, like, he grew up in Everett. He was just a guy who didn't like jerks and really liked the underdog and really wanted to know more about people and loved people so much. Um, but I think my favorite memory probably was when we almost burned the beach down. So,
Okay, you gotta share that.
okay. So, we were in the Cape, and right where I am right now, it happened right over there. And we were outside. We had a bunch of our friends over, and it was like Labor Day weekend, and we were setting off really small fireworks in the backyard and kept on burning my mom's furniture. And she was like, "Get out of here, go down the beach, get out of here." So we went down with my dad to the beach and set off these little firecrackers and everything. And it was super fun. And the dune grass caught on fire. And instead of taking sand and just dumping the sand on it, he took a towel and hit it like this, and flames shot out both sides. And thank God the wind was blowing up towards the house instead of the other way, because if this thing had gone either way, it would have hit all the old wooden staircases going up, and it would have burnt down like every house on the street, which would have been so bad. It went up towards the house on the dune grass, and the sprinklers were on.
Thank you.
So it just burnt all but the flames they were like 40 feet high,
My
black
God.
smoke. You couldn't see the house. The house is white, so now it's like covered in soot. Um, One of us ran to get like a Gatorade cooler to fill up with water, but then it was like too heavy to pick up, and the flames were too big at that point. And we didn't have a hose, and um, it was insane. All these boats were out in the ocean honking and calling the police, and just flame. Joe's eyebrows got burnt off. Um, it was insane. So anyway, it starts to kind of peter out at the top of the dunes, which, this is so funny too, because he used to make us, like, in the middle of the night, pull out the dune grass to gain more beach, but you're not supposed to do that because, you know, erosion. And
Little things.
um we haven't done that in a very long time, but he successfully burnt down all the grass. And so anyway, the fire department comes, and they're about to drive onto our lawn, and my mom's like, "No, no, no, I just had this landscape." And they're like, "Ma'am, it's on fire." And she's like, "It's burning out, it's almost done." So Joe walks up, and he's like, can I pull you to the side? Because now the fire chief is throwing all his guys down to the beach. He's like, "You got to find evidence," which he would not have found because Joe had sent all of us down to pick up all the burning embers of the fireworks and hide them. So he pulls the chief aside, and he's like, "Are you married?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "Great, you'll understand." And he tells the chief that my mom was a closet smoker, and that all the girls had caught her, like, ripping butts down by the
Uh-uh.
ocean the previous night. And he was like, she must have gone down there and just, like, flicked a butt into the dune grass by accident, and I think she's really embarrassed, and the guy's like, "I got you." He's like, "Guys, come on. We're good.
Come
We
on.
got it." And they left.
Oh
And they
my
left.
goodness. That's amazing.
They left.
That's
So,
amazing.
it was,
Brilliant.
a brilliant story, and he got rid of the dune grass effectively, and he just I have so many stories like that, like saving a random guy. We were out on a boat, and this man was, like, drowning. He was clinging onto the side of his boat, and we were in the harbor in Cape Cod, so it wasn't super deep, but it was very windy and wavy, and it was an older man clinging to it the side of a dinghy, and Joe, like, jumped in and got him back on the boat and was like, "I'm such a macho man. I saved him." And the man had gone out on his boat. His wife had told him not to go out because there was weather coming in, and he was like, "I'm going out." So he went out and fell out of his dinghy and couldn't get back in, and we, like, literally saved this man. And my dad was like, "Well, we would love to take you guys out to dinner or whatever," and he was like, "No, can't acknowledge it.
Don't say
I
anything
can't tell my wife that I almost died."
for the end.
And he told everyone about it. It was just like, next time I see you in person, I have some very funny ones that I cannot tell on a recording, but I had the best ones. Um, but he just, like, chaos and hilarity just followed this man everywhere he went in the best possible way. I mean, the stories he had were just, like, insane
Insane.
and full of, like, just, like, people.
Uh-huh.
People and the nature of people, and, he loved it. He loved just getting his hands dirty and, like, understanding it all. So,
He's so amazing.
yeah,
Such an amazing man. Such an amazing man.
he really was, and he loved you guys. He loved his annual picture with the kisses. Yep.
Yes. Oh, love that. Love it. Um, well, tell us what's happening with the Joey Fund, and
Yep.
we'll of course post all the links and anyone wants to get involved in anything.
Thank
Don't know
you.
how, but you're doing some really cool stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, I've run the Instagram for a long time, and up until 2 months ago, it had really been a place for me to be like, "All right, here's our newest Joey Fund hats." Let me grab you a hat so I can
Yeah.
actually show you what's going on here. This is one of our hats.
So cool. Love.
I think this was my dad's. You can always tell, yep, all his little hairs are in there. Um, but he loved these hats, and they're a different color every year. And up until then, it was really just I posted pictures of people around the world with
Mhm.
the Joey hats, and they would send them in, and I kind of would be like, I'd post VLC photos and events that were happening, but I wasn't really, like, getting into it. And I started just getting really frustrated with the fact that I wanted to raise more money. And, when we lost my dad, the Joey Fund fundraising kind of suffered. Not a huge, huge amount. We're still bringing in a ton of money, but not quite as much. Um, I get it. A lot of people donate to people,
They do.
and not necessarily to your cause. They donate to your story and to you. And a lot of people were donating to him
Mhm.
for him.
Yeah.
If I donate to Joe, then he'll support my thing, or he'll help me with this. And, a lot of it, I mean, we're not stupid.
No,
Sometimes it
it
is
it
favor
is
money.
yeah, it's the nature of the beast.
And it is what it is. And some people have dropped out, and, I wish them well. I wish they were still supporting, but
Uh-huh.
here we are. And so I got so used to consuming all this Instagram content and watching these people do, like, the dumbest stuff online and bringing in so much money. And I was just like, I am a creative person. I can do this. Like, I have a following. I don't have, like, a massive following, but I already had over 1,000 people following the Joey Fund, which is, it's a nonprofit. I'm not posting sexy stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. And the CF community is so vibrant online. So I was like, I can do this. I can do this and I can fundraise through it. So I'm taking a content creation class right now. And so I'm learning how to like do TikToks and how to create content that's actually interesting and that people will want to consume. So, and I'm having a great time with it.
That's
And it's working. I've gotten like 10 hat orders in the last 36 hours, which has never, ever happened. I get random hat orders sometimes, but they're very one off. And these are all like directly correlated to the
your
posts.
your online presence, the game has been elevated. Like, I can see it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So
Yeah.
that's really cool that you're doing a class on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's fascinating. And it's stuff that like I didn't realize how to do and using certain tools to build the content so it doesn't just look like it's not just a static post or when to do a carousel versus a reel versus a whatever, which I knew what they all were, but I didn't really know like when to use what. And yeah, it's actually I think the other thing was like using my own face
Mhm.
because everybody knows what the Joey Fund is, but people like to see behind the facade. And I think I just had to get really comfortable with putting my own face on there and like yapping at the camera. And I was like, no one's gonna want to watch this. But they do, and they are. It's so weird.
It is, it's
It's
typing it all though. That's the thing. It's
yeah,
like knowing the people behind the cause, you know?
right.
It is because
Right.
again, it's the people.
Exactly. That's all anyone cares about. And I'm incredibly lucky that I have been given access to a lot of these tables in, milestones in the board. And I'm going to the European CF conference in Lisbon in 3 weeks. And like, I'm like, think of the content I can make. But like,
That's amazing.
why wouldn't I utilize that? And people who have CF and who are in these groups like want to see what's going on at VLC. They want to see what's going on. I mean, I can't bring everyone into the board meeting, but like I can be like, is there anything you want me to bring up at the board meeting? Like this should be um a forum where like we can all speak in, and if I can help to utilize that, then like let's do it,
Yeah. I
you
love
know?
I love it. It's so fun. And
It
even
is.
somebody like me who knows you, it's just fun to watch it all happen and I'm learning more about what you do anyway. Because yeah,
Yeah.
it is like one of those things where even with me with my fundraising, you like take for granted that everybody knows it because you've been doing it for so long.
Right.
But so many people, so many new people have come into your life since you were doing the bones, like the basics of it way back in the day that they don't know. They're just, "What is this CF thing that she does? Okay." But
Exactly.
it's brilliant. I love it.
Right. Thank you. It's, the craziest thing that's been coming out of it is that I thought for sure it would just be about Joey Fun content. But this class, the leaders were like, you have to offer something. You
Mm,
have to bring people in because they're going to learn something. And I was like, all right, well, I know fundraising. So I started posting these like facts or like, this is what you're getting wrong, or this is what you should do, or whatever tips. And that's what's been blowing up the most is
interesting.
people are and apparently there is like a large gap in people being given ideas of like, I need to raise $1,000. How do I do that quickly? They don't know how to do it. And it's really intimidating. And you and I talk about it all the time. Like it's second nature to us. So why not just post about it?
Totally. Love it. I love it.
So
So
yeah,
brilliant.
thank
Well,
you.
I love this. I love your family. I still love your dad. I don't ever like to
Oh,
think about them in the
no,
past because they're still here.
no,
They are.
they
I love
are.
that. Yeah.
He is. I see him everywhere.
Mhm. I love it. I do. I'm the same with John and, just people who have moved on, moved up, however you wanna
Moved
say,
up. Yep.
eating popcorn in the ground. I don't know,
I know.
wherever they
JT.
are.
It's so it's so dark, but you know what? Death
Good.
is dark.
That is
So,
dark. Yeah. Um, is there anything else that you can think of that you wanna share or that you think Joe might have wanted you to share that we didn't cover?
God, mean, how much time do you have? No, I think sorry, the mower is right behind me too.
Oh, we
It's loud.
and I in our landscaping situations today.
Yeah, our landscaping era.
Audio works really
I
well.
know. I think just like this CF community is just so beautiful and unlike any other group that I have ever met. And I think it's because it's built up of people who are so deeply involved and have lost so much together. And, I'm part of lots of organizations that are not at all on this level, but like, other groups, I don't see the community like this. And even like, especially nationally, it's usually very like pocketed. And I think that certainly is why we're so successful is that we are so together and centralized and all on the same page and we acknowledge that like there is a lot of loss and grief in I think about what Margaret's doing with the Rose Garden at VLC and acknowledging those that we've lost. That's so important that we not pretend that this isn't all sunshine and rainbows.
No. And so many young I mean, it's a demographic of young loss. Like, true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's devastating and you have to acknowledge both things. Both things can be true and you need to honor that. And I think Joe just loved this community so much. He knew that there would be a cure. There will be a cure. I know there will be. I mean, we're getting so close to what we're doing. And I think it's just I always reassure people that like one, we will find a cure. And two, like we're going to keep going until there is a cure and a treatment for every single person.
Every single person.
It drives me mental when people are like, well, you guys cured it, right? Like it's over. Like good enough. And it's like, not a single person has a cure. It's
Not
not
one.
even one. Like,
It's
and the
not
drugs are amazing, but like it's not gone. It is still here. And the drugs are amazing not for everybody. Some people can't take them because they get so sick and others can't take them because they don't work for them. So, you know, we've come so far, but we are not done
we
at
are not
all.
done. I mean, I would literally was just talking to Gavin, who's my oldest, who's 26, yesterday. He went to clinic and he called me and he's like, I'm leaving clinic and he's very healthy right now. Like
Hmm.
Trikafta has been a game changer for him. He is so healthy. And and then you forget about these little clinic things where he was like, oh my God, I just spent half of my day. They're doing this. And then now they want to do this test and they want to do that test and they wanted to do glucose tolerance and why can't they just get it all together? Like, he's just frustrated. Like, I had to take
Yeah.
half a day off from work to get all this stuff done. And I still have to go back for this other stuff. And why do they need to know about this? And what, I'm like, Gavin, I mean, you do have to get glucose tolerance. You got to check for that. So many people end up with CF related diabetes. I know, but it's in the ass. I'm like, I know. I mean, I don't know. I just watch you and I know what
Yeah.
I see as your mother. Yeah, and he's one of the very, very healthy ones and it's still a giant pain in the ass.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
not cured. We're not cured.
Yeah. I guess, that's the future, We're we're in it. We're
We're
in it
in
till it's done. And not to be cliche, but um I think that's a huge concern in the community right now is that we're gonna say like that's enough. Good
close enough.
enough job.
Mhm. Yep.
Like no one why would anyone accept that?
I know. To be so, so close and then be like, let's move on to something else.
Right. It's
Be a
so
part of the
weird to me.
cure. Yeah.
Right.
Part of the real cure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the CFF has so, so, so much money, but like, guess how much it costs to do genetic therapy?
Yeah.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah. As it turns.
Way more than we have.
No.
So, yeah, that's pretty much what I would say.
I think that's what Joe would say too.
And that's what Joe would say.
That's exactly what he would say. Milestone's 5. No, just kidding.
Please help me.
It
You know it'll happen.
will.
It's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, this has been amazing, as I knew it would be.
This is great.
I love talking to you. I love talking about your
Me
dad.
too.
Talk about it
Oh, I
anytime,
know.
and it would be my pleasure. And I love you.
I
And
love you. This has
yeah,
been wonderful. Thank you for having me on. I
thank you.
love getting to talk to someone about grief who doesn't think that I'm crazy.
And we can laugh while we're
Yeah.
talking and crying.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's part of it.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And I'll put all the links to all the things for Kate in the show notes and follow her Instagram because it's really freaking good. It's so good.
Yes.
So we'll put
I
that
think
link
it's
there
just
too.
at the Joey Fund.
The Joy Fund. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll put a link too. And yeah, thank y'all so much for joining. And we'll give you more hot tips someday on how to handle when somebody dies. Nobody freaking. But all right. Thank y'all. Mwah. Bye.